All right, y'all, man. Good Doc back again once again. Let's lock in. Give me a minute. I'm trying to drive and make sure I don't hit this guy behind me. You know, it amazes me, right? It baffles me, it amazes me, but it's definitely worth the conversation. Only recently have a lot of guys started to realize that you don't need a six-figure salary to live a great life abroad, right? You do not need a six-figure salary to live a decent, great, probably above average lifestyle overseas, more specifically like places like the Philippines, the DR, etc. Right? Now, let me make sure I preface this by saying before I say it, Doc will never tell you to stop leveling up, right? I will never say, yo, y'all stop making money because you don't need that much money to live overseas. Nah, make as much bread as you possibly can, get out, live your best life, right? But when we have conversations about how much money it would generally take for a lot of guys to live a good life overseas, especially in a place like the Philippines, because that's what I can speak more so towards, you'll start to hear numbers on the average of about $2,500 a month being enough for you to live like a king in the Philippines, right? Now, of course, I will be the first to say that if you can make more than that, hey, that just adds fuel to the fire. You'll have a lot of guys that'll be like, yo, man, I can't do it for less than $5,000. But you'll start to realize even $5,000 on average, ladies and gentlemen, is what, $60K a year? Roughly about 60, yeah, I think it's about 60K if the math adds up. 12 months, 5,000, that sounds about right, 60K a year. That's still $40,000 below a $100,000 salary, $100,000 annually. So when you start to realize in reality that it doesn't necessarily take, I know the shine is getting me, but y'all work with me. But when you start to realize that it doesn't take that much money for you to live a decent life abroad, it really does open a lot of guys' eyes. And in reality, let's keep it real, man. We were always taught, bro, yo, man, if you ain't making 100K, you a bum. If you're not making at least six figures, you ass. And then you have these young ladies that come out here more so from the Western world, talk about if you ain't bringing home $500, $400, $300,000 a year, you ain't shit. That all tied in together has really forced our mindset to believe that if we're really bum ass dudes if we don't bring in more than 100K a year. Now, to all my brethren out there bringing in six figures, salute to y'all. Y'all bust y'all ass to get it, and you deserve it. To all of my brethren who may find it a little bit difficult for you to get to the six-figure salary, or six figures annually, I'm just trying to give you an alternative to let you understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're ass at life because you didn't bring in six figures, right? Don't mean you're ass at life because you don't bring in six figures. Now, I'm still that guy. When I tell you, don't stop leveling up. I may not be at the six figures yet, but I'm aspiring to get there. I have life goals that have really put me in a position to be able to try to make as much money as I possibly can and maximize it out. That's via investments. That's via putting out content. That's via all the other things that I do to put a little extra change in my pocket. So it's not like I'm telling you to stop at whatever little mediocre salary you have and just saying, okay, that's just going to be it. But when you think about it in hindsight, if it really only takes about $2,500 to live a really good life overseas, and especially a place like the Philippines, the way I look at it is you only have to find a way to make $2,500 a month consistently. And online, that's probably really easy to do. I'm sure there's a lot of guys who do very well online, right? You got to find your niche. You got to find what works for you. But if you can consistently bring that in every month, it's like, yo, I can live overseas for the rest of my life. That's why you see a lot of guys getting into digital marketing and different types of plays like that. Nothing wrong with that. But let's say, for example, you're not a technologically sound person, or maybe, technology isn't for you and you're not really into digital marketing. So now you have to put yourself in a position to understand how much money can you bring in specifically, or if you don't get retirement or you choose to retire before retirement, you have to figure out how you're going to average out your money to last you the longest duration humanly possible if you choose to commit yourself to a life overseas, right? You have to figure out, what is it going to take for me to be able to live this life that I want, even though I may not have the money consistently coming in every month at this particular rate. How much money do I need to have saved to put to the side for me to be able to live the life that I need overseas? So that's when you start thinking, if I'm not investing, if I'm not putting my money into anything, when I hope that you are, because that's crazy, how much money do I need to have lump sum? And how do I need to break that down to a monthly basis to order to satisfactorily live a greater life overseas? Right? So those are the things you think about, right? And like I said, it's not far-fetched to believe, or it's not too far-fetched to be like, yo, man, I really don't need 6 figures to live a great life overseas. I don't need all this money that people have told me time and time again. If I don't have it, I'm a fucking bum, to live overseas, right? So now you see why, outside of the women and the femininity and all of that stuff, your money goes a long way. And that's really a very, very great talking point for a lot of people when it comes to why they choose to, you know, live a life overseas or choose to spend more time overseas than they actually do home. Right? Some people don't do the full commitment. Some people are like, I'm 6 months in, 6 months out. Maybe you have a job wherein you can, and this is the type of work I'm looking to get into mentally wise, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. We'll see how it works out. Partly one of the main reasons why I chose to be a teacher, because I'm guaranteed my summer's off. But in reality, you can get into a job where you work that bitch 3 months out of the year and you cake up, man. It depends on what the job is, and then you're good for the whole rest of the year, or vice versa. You work maybe 6 months and then you're off 6 months, or, you know, shout out to my boy HT Logistics. Y'all know that's my man's in them, where he does truck driving year round, except around the winter time, where usually he spends a lot of his time in the Philippines, warmer climate, and, you know, he's not putting himself in danger on these roads, you know, because in Chicago, not Chicago, but in Illinois, where he lives at, you know, snow and up north, that shit get real bad. And instead of putting himself in danger, he just busts his ass year round, so that when he gets his time off, and when it's winter time, he just goes overseas and he kicks it. So you can actually put yourself in a position to do shit like that, right? There's no reason, well, and I know he probably clears more than 6 figures. Let me make sure I say that, because I know he's probably doing very well for himself, right? Being an owner operator. But that's just one example of a lot of guys. I mean, you could be a content creator, and if your content creation and whatever you're doing, your Patreon and all of that stuff can equivalent to the $2,500 you need to live abroad, that's awesome. Now, I'm not going to tell you to bank on that, because you might have a great month and then YouTube decide they don't want to push your shit on the algorithm and then your shit falls apart, right? So anything can happen when it comes to relying on the digital space of content creation or being a digital marketer and stuff like that. You may have great months, you may have down months. You just have to take that into consideration if that is something you choose to do in order to prepare yourself for a life abroad. But going back to the main topic of the conversation, guys, you don't need 6 figures to live a great life abroad. You're not a bum ass dude if you only make 30, 40, 50,000. And let's say for example, that's 30, 40, 50,000 consistently, even while you're living overseas, to live a great life, right? They don't make you a bum if that's what you're doing. You can actually live a really good life overseas for little money. Now, you got people that'll be like, man, you're just teaching guys to cut corners, or to be cheap, or to do this, or to do that. But in reality, man, and let's be honest as we possibly can, because, you know, I listen to a lot of take content. You above and shit. I listen to it, but in reality, we have to face facts that there are going to be a lot of guys out there that ain't going to clear $100,000, right? There's going to be a lot of guys that ain't going to make that type of money annually, right? Now, in your lifetime, you may touch $100K, you just may not see it, but in your lifetime, you can touch that type of money over time. But in reality, for those to consistently do that annually, on an annual basis, it's very, very difficult, you know? So I never want you guys to stop aspiring to level up. I'm not telling you guys to cut corners, to be cheat. I mean, I'm not telling you guys to cut corners and, you know, cheat yourself, more specifically, out of the amount of money that you actually can make. But in reality, guys, you don't need $100K annually to live a good life abroad. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it'll hurt you in any way, shape, or form to have that type of bread abroad. You'll be living upper echelon style. We're talking about the top 1% type shit if you're bringing in that type of money. Like, probably somewhat better than some of the people in the top 1%. But that's neither here nor there. All right, another story for another day. And trust me, I didn't make that type of money at all. But I had friends who had fathers back when I was in college that were top 1% type kids and shit, and they were really, you know, some of them were assholes and some of them were cool to be around. And when you realize how much money they were actually making in pesos and you turn that into dollars, on average they were bringing in probably about $60K a year. right? On average, they were bringing in about $60,000 US a year. Not bad, right? And they were living great lives. These are my local people living that type of lifestyle. If you come over there, I can almost guarantee you'll probably be doing a little bit better. And just because you make more money don't mean you got to spend more money either. Let's make sure we note that as well. Anyway, that's my time, effort, and energy, guys. I'm sorry for blabbering, but that's what I needed to get off my chest. I love y'all. Continue to rock with the Good Doc, man. If you haven't gotten you an ebook yet, Good Doc's Good Books, description area below. Check me out. All my merch listed in the description area below as well, man. Y'all take care. Y'all stay blessed, man. Happy holidays, man. Doc is out. Peace.